Let's go to another one of our great students, Madeline.
Hi, Senator. Thank you so much for speaking with us. I feel like I've learned a lot already from you. And my question was just kind of touching on, you had talked about going to TCC and that being a community college or a junior college or whatever you want to call it. Do you want to see more sports in community colleges? Because I went to South Seattle College before transferring to UW, and that there wasn't even an opportunity for that there. So that would be my first question would be, do you want to see sports expanded in that capacity? And also, would you want to see just junior colleges and community colleges access expanded just in general?
Yeah, yes to both questions. Yeah, and you know, I first started at a community college back home, Chattahoochee Valley Community College, and in the South, sports are huge. So we had lots of athletic teams. And I guess I haven't spent a lot of time thinking about the number of community colleges and technical colleges that don't have athletic teams because of the way that it allows students to be involved. And a lot of times at our two-year schools or community colleges, we have, you know, there are so many commuter students. So finding more ways to keep students on campus and keep students together and build community, I absolutely want to support that. And increasing access. I mean, I taught a course called College Bound for a number of years, exposing students to higher education, and made it a point to talk about, you know, higher education is technical college and community college, a four-year college. It's this entire spectrum, and there is no better way to do it. It's what fits for you. So I want to expand access, and I want to rid a stigma that it's less than, you know, that when someone's explaining to you that you should probably choose a better path and go to a, you know, junior college, like it's not a less than, that's a good plan. Like, that's great. I had a really good experience and would have never learned about the University of Puget Sound if it wasn't for a college fair that was at TCC. I was new to this area. I was a military spouse. I just wanted to jump back into school. And because I went to a community college that was on quarters, I could jump in and not have to wait for another semester. So it provided me, you know, access to education a lot quicker than a school that would have been on semesters. And I had amazing childcare for my, you know, daughter, but it was a game changer for me. And I have so many friends from TCC, and I love TCC too when I get to go back to TCC. But I definitely spend more time, you know, at UPS just because I was there a longer period of time. But I had an amazing experience, and I want more students to have experiences like that, including in athletics.
Thank you so much.
Oh.
You're welcome.
Shauna Lawson.
Hi, Shauna.
Hi, Twina. So, you know, I've had plenty of times that we've worked together on different things, and it's been a pleasure to see you grow and do the different things that you're doing. I just wanted to ask, and maybe somebody already asked this, what is it like showing up in different spaces? Because you do a lot of different things, and sometimes people will try to put people in a box. Like, some people didn't even know you were into sports. They would have been like, you know, some people have said, I didn't know she was a cheerleader. I didn't know she was a basketball player. I didn't know she was into this. Do you feel like you can bring your full self into the different spaces that you're in? Or do you feel like you have to sacrifice sometimes and kind of throw off your whole self to just show up as one, you know, one assembly of yourself?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And I do feel fortunate for all of my different experiences and elements of who I am. I don't feel like I have to sacrifice. I also have had a lot of coaching by, I mean, I mentioned that my legislative assistant, Danielle, is on. She also was my campaign manager, but I've received so much coaching from those around me who remind me how every element of my story and who I am is beneficial, especially running for office, like running for state senate as someone who has never served in the legislature. And sometimes folks feel like you should serve as a House member first. But I just had an incredible team around me who's like, you've been a military spouse. The military, you know, the largest military base in this state and one of the largest in this country is in your district. You know, you have so many school districts in your district, and you have been a teacher, and you are a school board director. You are a mom, and there are so many parents and families who are here. But I find that anytime I enter a space, especially if I'm trying to figure out what's my connection, why am I here? And it's like, you're talking to a labor group. You were a member of a union for 5 years. So what I love is like, if I just take a moment to think about components of my story that sometimes I leave behind, you know, just because I'm just not thinking of them, it really helps me to connect with the group that I'm talking to, the room that I'm in. So I think there is a time and place for everything. I'm so grateful I have the versatility, because I don't just have to show up as the athlete and only talk about athletics all the time. And I don't have to just talk about business. So I think it is more beneficial than detrimental. But I do remind myself of like, you have a story, you have a connection, you know, think about this experience, even the ones that sometimes I want to forget. But, you know, I have these incredible elements that for a lot of folks, including like experiencing foster care, experiencing homelessness, easily folks want to hide those components of their story. Experiencing abuse, easily folks want to hide, and they can. People do not have to share their trauma in the way that I want to share mine. That's up to them. But for me, I have found it very therapeutic to share these elements of who I am, the good and the bad, to connect with others. So I love telling my story. And I think it helps me to be a more empathetic and understanding person because of all of these different experiences. But it blows my mind too, when I'm like, girl, you have a story or an experience, like what haven't you done? But those are the places where I'm still trying to explore. And I'm like, if I haven't done that, I want to do that. I want to try that.
Thank you.
Well, usually, Senator, that's when the bungee jumping question comes up, but we won't ask that. So.
I haven't done that yet. I got to do that.
We are a business school. And as a business school, we have seen small businesses and large all around us really suffer. The thing that is, though, is that it really bothers me when people say, well, the small businesses have suffered. No, it's been the employees that have suffered, as well as the small businesses where the owners are basically working for wages, because that's what you have to do in a small business. We have been hit particularly hard here in Pierce County. How are we going to recover from COVID-19? Because that's really where we are. And that's a tough one, sorry.
It is a tough one. And there are so many nuances, everything from, we definitely have to continue washing our hands and wearing our masks. We also are going to have fair metrics and use of data as we are, you know, measuring and judging counties, right? Because Pierce County, I think, was kind of dealt a bad deal this last round of which county will be open based on metrics. And we weren't given grace like some other counties might have been given. I did hear that today at 2:30, the governor is going to make a new announcement. And maybe because Pierce County has in fact been doing a really good job, our families, our students, our businesses have been doing a really good job following guidelines. And while there are some outliers, we're going to focus on the positive. I think we have been flattening the curve. And I want to see us progress through the phases, because it seems like we're never going to get out of this pandemic when we continue to go back. And it feels like someone telling you you're not doing good enough, even though we're talking about an entire county. I feel like a student who just isn't performing, you know, or an athlete who just isn't good enough every time we take a step back. Even though I feel like I'm doing my part, we're staying home. So I think we are going to have to continue to be patient with each other. We are going to continue, I ask you all, continue putting pressure on your elected officials to speak out. I'm proud of the Pierce County delegation for saying, you know, many of us signed onto a letter to say, hey, Governor Inslee, when you were putting Pierce County back a phase, we didn't get the same grace that other counties just got, you know, this consideration of like, we'll check back again in 2 weeks. And we have to tell our elected officials that we got to continue to follow the science. And it cannot appear at all that we are, you know, being political about these decisions. And so we'll have to stick through it. It's really hard. I mean, I don't want to tell even my kids that they have to continue to be resilient. It's hard. It's really difficult. And I do feel like I'm running out of answers, because I'm trying to be a good citizen and leader as well by saying, let's just follow the guidelines and continue doing what we're doing. but it only works if we see the benefits of it. And in this case, if we see our county continue to open up, and if we see the COVID cases continue to decline and the vaccination numbers continue to increase. So I'm hopeful that those things will happen. And I'm just trying to be patient, but also apply pressure when things don't seem right and don't seem fair. And I ask that of our entire community, that how we're going to get through this is continue to apply the pressure, continue to be patient, and keep you and your family safe.
Shauna, do you have a follow-up question? Oh, okay. Well,
I'm sorry, I was on mute, but no follow-up question. Thank you.
Oh, okay. All right. Continuing on then, Senator, I got to get back to sports just a little bit. You're on the advisory board of Sports Enterprise Management, our program here at the Milgard School of Business. And what do you see as the value of sports enterprise management in the business school to not just our area, but to the greater area, far outside Tacoma?
Yeah, wonderful question. And while I don't know the entry point of all students, I don't know if half of them were athletes and they're just, trying to figure out how they can stay close to athletics, but maybe like me, you've kind of, played all the sports you could possibly play and need to actually have a job that pays. What I love about sports enterprise is for any of us who really love sports, there gets to be this understanding of there are so many jobs that make any sports team, and I'm speaking at this point professional, even though there's a lot behind the scenes for rec and AAU, but there's a lot that happens behind the scenes to make any of our larger sports teams function, from marketing, from communication. There's a general manager. There are folks who have to handle the janitorial responsibilities, the financial responsibilities. And I actually took some students of mine on this experience because lots of them were interested in sports, love playing sports. But if they're not going to play as a college athlete, and if they're not really interested in coaching, I wanted to help them to explore how they could stay in that field and stay involved with sports. And if they didn't want to be a trainer, and so many folks are interested in business, well, sports is a business. Everything behind the scenes makes what happens on the court or on the field happen. But you need all the folks who you never get to see, who you don't know how much goes into even sales and marketing, and how much goes into the behind the scenes healthcare for a team. And so I think we get to, in this program, have an opportunity to educate students and inspire them to, help us to keep sports alive by taking care of all of the behind the scenes things that we, forget happen, so we can enjoy our favorite Seahawks game or OL Reign game or Sounders game. Don't mean to offend anyone if those aren't your teams, but we need the folks to do all of the jobs, all of the business responsibilities that we never really talk about when we talk about athletics, in order for our sports teams to sustain. And I'm going to pause there because I feel like I'm getting redundant, but we need those folks to keep sports alive.
And even more than that, because of the Pacific Northwest, we have snowshoeing and snow skiing and hiking and biking and mountaineering. We have some tremendous sports that you don't see on television so much, but we still have it's a huge part of this. So thank you very much for indulging me in another sports question. But I probably do need to get back to community. What's your number one issue?
Oh, my number one issue, I'm going to stick with education.
Okay.
And
all right. Then in your experience, because you were in addition to being a teacher, you're also on a school board. So, you've had many experiences in that. What do you feel like that first needs to happen? And two, what can you do to help make it happen? And then three, what can we do to help you?
Great. And is this still connected to my number one issue, education?
Yes.
Okay. Well, definitely more money. So education is my number one issue, and that's K-12 and also post-secondary. So more money so that we can have nice, strong, quality public education systems. Also more money for college students and students who want to attend college so that they can achieve that dream.